Maryland, known for its blue crabs, its beaches, the Ravens, the Orioles, and its proximity to the nation's capital. The Old Line State seems like a fantastic place to live, and overall it is, but there are some places you definitely don't want to call home here. I think you know what I'm talking about. Come on now. Since a lot of people are moving these days, people want to know, where can I go? I'm narrowing down my places to live. Just tell me where to start unchecking boxes. Okay, so when you're looking at a place like this in Maryland to live, you want to know, where's the good areas? Where's the bad areas? And specifically, where are the ghetto parts? Where's it bad? Where's it run down? Where's all the crime? Where are the schools bad? And those are the things we took into account by looking at data. Plus, I talked to people in Maryland. I read all the comments. You guys have been sending me notes telling me what places in Maryland that you like and which ones you don't like. So we factored that in too. While Maryland might be home to where the national anthem was written, it's certainly not all fireworks and celebrations, the places we're going to talk about. Let's get started. We begin our tour of the worst places to live in Maryland with a stop in Fruitland, located on the Delmarva Peninsula in the eastern part of the state. Now we're going to be over here quite a bit for this video. Fruitland is home to just 5,200 people and sits near the Delaware border just outside of Salisbury. It's a 20-minute drive from the shores of Chesapeake Bay. It seems like a peaceful place if you like small town living, but there are some pitfalls here, people. Fruitland has the worst unemployment rate in the state at 13%, and as a result, about 17% of residents are living below the poverty line. The schools here are mediocre and the cost of living is high. And despite being a small town, crime here is an issue. Property crime is more than double the national average. People living in Fruitland have a 1 in 23 chance of having their stuff snatched. And when folks aren't trying to take your wallet, there's just really not a lot to do here. At number 9, Mount Rainier, located about 4 miles kind of northeast from downtown DC and home to just over 8,000 people. This DC suburb's in a great location, but this community has its share of problems, including a lack of jobs, high crime, struggling schools, and just a challenging cost of living. Jobs in the region are relatively well-paying, with a median income of about $56,000, but these jobs are hard to find. And it doesn't help that 22% of adults living here never finished high school. You think they're going to get a decent job? I mean, the unemployment rate's 7%, and a lot of those people are never going to get a job. They're not even trying. It's hard to make ends meet when you can't find work, and it's even harder when you don't work, and it costs about $1,200 a month to rent an apartment here. On top of that, the schools here are lousy. They score a 4 out of 10 on one leading website. Thefts and robberies are higher now than ever, and they were already high. So what's to like about Mount Rainier? Well, there's a lot of diversity. There's a bunch of playgrounds and parks, and they have a lively arts district, so that's cool. And if you're a vegetarian, you're in luck. They have this organic food co-op centered around vegetarian food. Yay, good food! Now we need to convince folks here to actually eat it. Now we're going to go all the way out to the Panhandle for the first and last time, surprisingly, for our next worst place to live, the quiet mountain town of Cumberland. Located on the Potomac, Cumberland seems like a beautiful place to live if you're on the outside looking in, but I'm sure many of the 20,000 people living here would disagree. Cumberland's one of the poorest cities in the state. People living here earned a combined $36,000 a year, and folks out this way are well below the poverty line. And Cumberland area homes are the cheapest in the whole state at $94,000. And that's always for a reason, people. While you might think a low home price is great, it just shows there's not a lot of demand to live way out in Cumberland. But at least it's peaceful, right? Wrong. Crime's the 7th worst in the state. You have a 1 in 22 chance of being robbed here, and a 1 in 130 chance of being attacked or raped. Can you imagine that? Way out in the mountains, robbed or beaten? On top of the crime, the town's been struggling with opioid overdoses, but that's something taking hold of a huge region of the state. It's not just Cumberland. People say there's no opportunities here, there's nothing to do in the winter months, and everyone wants to seem to escape, but they're stuck. They even have the highest divorce rate in the state, too. What is happening in Cumberland? The perks to living here? It's beautiful in the summer, and they have these bike paths that go all the way to DC and Pittsburgh, so at least there's a way out of here. Of course, you knew Hagerstown was going to be on this list. It's an hour from Baltimore over in Washington County. There's 40,000 people there. It used to be nicknamed Hub City because of the railroads and roads it passed through, but today it's really a shell of itself. Hagerstown has the state's 8th highest unemployment rate, along with some of the lowest home prices and household incomes. People living here earn about $42,000 a year, and that doesn't go very far in this part of the country. The average home is about 116K, which is super low, and 1 in 4 people's on food stamps. You might imagine the schools are going to be bad, and they are. They're only about 10% of where they should be. Surprisingly, crime's only about 17% above the national average, but drugs are a growing problem in Hagerstown. People say there's needles and trash littering the sidewalks, and drunk and high people around every corner. There's plans to revitalize downtown, but residents say it's been a decade and not much has happened. Come on, Hagerstown leadership, give the people what they want. Clean the place up. We've heard it's a nightmare to live here. It's like a mini Baltimore. If you're looking for nice restaurants, a walkable community, or good schools, look elsewhere. But if Chili's, IHOP, and heroin are more up your alley, then Hagerstown would be a good fit, I guess. The D.C. suburb of Bladensburg is a bad place to live right now. About 9,400 people call Bladensburg home, but we're pretty sure this isn't where the wealthy politicians live. You'd think being so close to the nation's capital would mean something, but it hasn't for like ever now. Folks living here are struggling. 1 in 12 people here doesn't work or won't work or has never worked, and those who do work make about $22K each a year, which goes nowhere. Come on now. The cost of living is super high here, which means like 1 in 6 people's on welfare, and the public schools here are sadly also terrible. Meanwhile, the town's crime rate's more than 50% above the national average, and they have the second highest murder rate in the state. Can you believe that? Little Bladensburg is one of Maryland's most dangerous places. The waterfront park is a nice way to escape reality if you live here, so at least they have that. Of course, lots of people know Ocean City as a vacation land, but it's sure crazy here for crime and poverty and drugs. There's only 7,000 people who actually call Ocean City home, but each year, the city hosts up to 8 million tourists. If you live in Maryland, you know how bad it is here. Ocean City is one of the most dangerous places to live in Maryland. We're talking a crime rate that's 374% above the national average. What? Seriously, safety is a huge concern to residents here, as it has the most property crimes in the state and the second highest violent crime rates. Of course, we're measuring crimes happening to both residents and tourists, but would you want to live in a place where people are getting robbed and beaten up right in your own backyard? I wouldn't. Plus, you don't want to live here. Come on now. You can't enjoy the beach for 6 months a year because of all the traffic, and then summer ends, and it's like a ghost town, there's no jobs. But there are perks to living in Ocean City. The schools are actually pretty highly rated, and they say it's a tight-knit community, and of course there's going to be a ton of stuff to do, including the beach, when you can get there. We're not going to leave the Eastern Shore for a while. Just 40 miles west is Salisbury, the 4th worst place to live in Maryland. Salisbury is the largest city out here with about 33,000 people. So why did Salisbury make the list? Well, it's plagued by the same problems as many other places on this list, a really bad economy and high crime. 1 in 10 people doesn't work here, which is the 7th highest rate in Maryland. People in Salisbury only earn about $20,000 a year, which is why 1 in 4 people receives food stamps. It's also why home values are the 4th worst in the state. You can get an average home here for $158,000. One resident describes Salisbury as a Maryland place with high taxes and a lower-end Delaware lifestyle. That's just so mean. And then there's the safety concerns. On average, over the course of a year, Salisbury had a violent crime 6 out of 7 days of the week. The city also had the 4th highest rate of rape cases in Maryland too. So keep a tight grip on your wallet when you're out on Third Fridays in Salisbury. People living here say drunken college kids dominate the city. There's not much to do here in the winter months. And if you didn't grow up in Salisbury, you're not really welcomed here. Aw, that's mean. Be nice to people. But there's a glimmer of hope. The schools are actually decent. Salisbury has the lowest student-teacher ratio in the state, which means a lot of one-on-one time for the kids. So maybe there's hope for the future, or maybe the kids will just realize there's life outside of Salisbury and they'll leave. Okay, so clearly the Eastern Shore has a lot of lousy places to live, because only about 40 miles from Salisbury is Cambridge, number 3 on our list. There's 12,000 people here. Cambridge has a rich history and even a museum dedicated to Harriet Tubman, but its history is the only rich thing about Cambridge. There's some real economic issues here. 1 in 10 people here can't work or won't work, and that's the 4th highest rate in Maryland. The average man or woman here of working age makes about $21,000 a year to last all year long, which means 1 in 5 people here has to collect welfare. And of course, crime's going to be really high here. Over the course of the year, Cambridge had the highest number of rape cases in the state, averaging 1 a month. They also had a few murders here, and overall, they have the 3rd highest violent crime rate in the whole state. People living here have a 1 in 19 chance of being robbed. What in the hell? Online, Cambridge residents complain there's nothing to do here. You have to leave town to get decent food or go shopping. But Chick-fil-A just opened up here, so maybe things are heading in the right direction. Chick-fil-A, anyone? That'll make you feel better, right? No? We're going to remain on the Eastern Shore again. Elkton is way up here along Route 40, right on the Delaware state line. This town is also known as the elopement capital of the East Coast, but shotgun weddings aren't the only bad decisions being made in Elkton. You may not believe it, but Little Elkton has the highest crime rate in the state, where 1 out of 15 residents was robbed last year, and a car was stolen here every week. And every year, 1 in 100 people are either raped, beaten up, or killed. 1 in 100! What is going on in Elkton, and what is going on in America? 1 in 5 people lives in poverty, and home values are some of the worst in the state too. Education's also an issue. Elkton has the 8th highest high school dropout rate of all Maryland cities. One resident says if you have kids and can't afford private school, don't live in Elkton. Heroin's a growing problem here with dozens of overdoses each year. People living here say they can't even walk to the park or go get ice cream without seeing needles on the sidewalk. The addiction problems have led to even more homeless people here too. But if you live here, at least you can dance your cares away at the Scottish games each year, if you can even afford a ticket to get inside. Of course, Baltimore is going to be the worst place to live in Maryland. Come on now. Many parts of Baltimore are like the worst places you can live in the country. If you've ever seen The Wire, you know Baltimore's just not a place to call home. The city's plagued by crime, drugs, and corruption. Clearly, Baltimore has the highest violent crime rate in the state and the highest murder rate. The city had 348 murders last year, just about a murder every single day. Sure, there's going to be safe neighborhoods here and there, but no matter where you go, you're going to want to watch your back and your stuff. Baltimore had 25,000 property crimes last year, and 10 cars get stolen each day in Baltimore. What the hell? And it's not just the crime in Baltimore. Tons of people here don't work. Tons of people here have low-paying jobs. The taxes are high, and home values are the 5th worst in the state. And I'm sure you've heard about the drug use here. Heroin's easier to find than clean drinking water. There's addicts everywhere. There's trash everywhere. The streets look like crap. There's abandoned buildings on nearly every block. I mean, look at this place. I shot this on a random Sunday morning one day. Does it look like the people are productive? Does it look like they go to church or hold a job or they're involved in the community or seeking to better themselves? No. And this is the way lots of Baltimore is. Even the nice areas have it bad. Like the cool area by the harbor where people go and have dinner, they have bodies pulled out of the water sometimes. Downtown looks ominously uninspiring. It's really sad because this was once one of the largest and finest cities in all of America, and now everyone's leaving, and those who stay behind are almost left to fend for themselves and pick up the scraps left behind from a time when you were proud to live in Baltimore. And this is just one example of how bad things are all over this country. So there you have it, the worst cities to live in Maryland. These are all places in the state where crime is super high, people are broke, it's dirty, it's dangerous, there's nothing to do, and the schools are bad. And of course you want to know, where are the best places to live in Maryland? Well, sadly, you can't afford them, but they're all the fancy DC suburbs like Mount Airy, Bowie, Bethesda, Chevy Chase. You know, where it's super safe, where the schools are good, where there's fun stuff to do, and where the flowers bloom each spring. It's where the 1% live. And for the people in Baltimore like this, they'll probably never come close to living in a really nice place. Why? Not because of generational poverty, not because they've been held back. It's their own fault. They can get out of here if they try hard enough, but it's likely they never will. Here in Maryland, such a pretty state, there is a bay here and lots of rednecks. Rich people live here and they are so snobby. Many of them have big boats and they are rude. Baltimore, it's scary, 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 it's scary. You might get shot. You might get shot. Baltimore is scary, it's 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 scary. It might not stop. It might not stop. They all love Old Bay, they're in love with Old Bay. They all eat Old Bay on all their crab cakes. They all eat Old Bay every day. Old Bay for presents on their birthday. Some Natty Bows and some Old Bay. What could be better? Maybe some pepper. A bunch of crab legs in Old Bay, that is their entree. and maybe more crabs. Hun? Hey guys, so if anything I just talked about upset you or made you sad or mad, well then do something about it. Call your local leaders and demand change. Chip in and help those in need. Make your community better, because communities don't get better without hard work and determination. America's a great place. It just needs some more love and pride.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.
And are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation.